Imagine hearing a news that 19 bodies has been identified just 100 meters away from the road that you commute every day. And this is what is happening right now at Chemmani. 19 bodies has been identified, including 3 children, not combatants, not even adults, 3 infants. And while expressing solidarity, I'm going to touch on one of the important traps High Commissioner mentioned, the trap of impunity that has been happening in Sri Lanka, that has been plaguing this country for a while. I'm not here as an attorney or a legal authority, but I'm here to tell the story of many from the north and east of Sri Lanka. As very well clarified in the OISL report and Darusman report in 2014 and 2011, it is evident that there has been war crimes and crimes against humanity that has happened in Sri Lanka. In addition, certain emblematic cases, ACF case, Trinco 5, Navy 11, Velikada case, remain still unresolved. The justice for Easter Sunday attacks remains a hollow dream. And in this context, it is a very well proven fact that impunity and this lack of accountability is not an exception, but a norm in Sri Lanka. And we do not look to the international community out of desire, but out of desperation. The desperation that comes from the systemic failure of broken promises, regime after regime, year after year, that the plight of the people from the north and east will somehow be heard. And the lack of trust, as High Commissioner very well pointed out, emanating from the local institutions, where many of these institutions are compromised, undervalued or under-resourced, or just are there for the sake of eyewash. And I want to alarm of a rising rhetoric in Sri Lanka, both locally and internationally. Since the past election and the entry of the new administration, there's an effort going on to paint Sri Lanka as some post-conflict utopia. And there's a clear message that comes from the international community that the incoming new regime is going to solve all the social ills that has happened. But if we are to be honest, reflecting back on the existing reality today in the north and east, it is very well evident the root causes that have contributed to the conflict are well alive and kicking. Land issues and land grabs that were starting from the Land Gazette that was published 3 months ago, from Tayeti to Kurundur Malay, from Mailathamadu to Mannar, lands are being grabbed every day. Militarization is an increasing issue, and the lack of accountability and transparency is continuing to plague a lot of these institutions. And as we come back to the earlier question of Chemmani, Chemmani is not a relic or an architecture or an archaeological site. It is a site that tells us to look deeply about the ongoing systemic inefficiency of the government mechanisms. And still, 16 years after the war, we are unearthing these dead bodies, including those of infants. The question now is, whether are we going to unearth the truth or bury them in silence? To the UN High Commissioner, I have 2 proposals. Sir, we plead with you to renew and strengthen the Sri Lanka Accountability Project with international oversight and accountability, and with invitation from the international community to participate meaningfully in the process. And also to advocate for a creation of an independent public prosecutor's office in Sri Lanka that is free from political interference. And to the global community represented here, support the binding UNHRC mechanisms to promote both the international investigation as well as the meaningful domestic reforms. As a concluding note, I want to reiterate what the High Commissioner said. We cannot build peace on the grave of impunity. And peace without justice is a facade where impunity becomes a policy and silence becomes complicity. And we owe much more than silence to the mothers and to the relatives who are still searching for their loved ones, to those infants who didn't even live to realize their day, who are buried in those sites, and to those victims who have suffered horrifically during the war. And as we continue to fight for justice and accountability, if we are to achieve true, meaningful reconciliation in Sri Lanka, accountability is not an option, but it should be a non-negotiable. Thank you.